All right, here we are again in the downtown Plymouth studios of Career Planning Specialists with business consultant extraordinaire, Tom Borg.
Thank you, Jim.
And, I learn so much every time you're here, Tom. And I got a true or false question for you.
Oh, sure.
All right, true or false? Marketing is something that a company does once, and that's it.
False. Marketing should be an overall plan.
So, in other words, it's more than one event. It's
Yes.
more than those little rulers with your company name that you pass
Yes,
out.
absolutely, Jim. I think so often the small business is that I consult with today, that is a big aha for them because, and I've seen it, where they'll take $10,000 and put it into an advertising promotion where they'll be doing maybe 3 mailings, and that's about it. And they get some business, maybe a little spurt, but that's it. That's their marketing plan.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but research shows that it takes about 6 hits before somebody really starts paying attention.
Exactly. And the formulas I've heard, and there's some different variations out there, about a total of 27 exposures they have to have to your product or service from the time they've never heard of it to the time they actually go ahead and purchase it. So 27 exposures. Now in that 27 exposures, it seems that every 3 exposures they actually have an experience with that marketing event, whether it be an advertisement, whether it be a ruler, whatever it might be. The fact is that after having a series of these exposures, they're going to actually experience it about 1 out of every 3 of those exposures, and at the time they've had 27 exposures, they're going to purchase your product or service.
So perhaps that's why during a major sporting event, they even show you the same commercial back to back.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Okay.
Good
So-
example of that, Jim. I should interrupt for a moment. That Bell Tire commercial that's been on for a long time now. I was down to Bell Tire a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking the gentleman who was servicing me to get my tires on my car. I said, well, what do you think about your advertising? He says, oh, we're so sick of it over here. And I said, why is that? He said, oh, it's the same commercial, and it's just so boring. I said, well, as I understand it, according to J. Conrad Levinson, the only time the person that should be responsible for deciding whether or not that ad should be changed, that advertisement should be changed, should be your accountant. Because he's the guy that knows how your bottom line is doing based on that advertising. So if your bottom line starts to dip, okay, maybe it's time to tweak that advertisement so that it's a little different now. But yeah, over and over and over again is absolutely the truth.
All right. Well, so we could safely say one chamber mixer does not a marketing campaign make.
No.
I noticed that many people will appear at one chamber mixer. You never see them again.
That's right. Yeah, they or you know what they'll do is they'll, in addition to that, they may join the chamber, go to a mixer, have their, of course, they get their listing in the magazine from the chamber, the directory, and never do anything else, and wonder why nothing's working. Well, they haven't even begun to scratch the surface yet.
Okay, so you got to get it out there over and over and over. Let me ask another question. Many people look at marketing and sales as synonymous. Is that true?
Marketing and sales are 2 different things.
Oh.
Marketing is, to do marketing properly, you should have a 12-month plan to begin with. And on that 12-month plan, you should include all the activities that you would include in your marketing approach. And on that calendar, you would figure out which activities are going to be taking place during which month, and some of them, of course, over several months. So that's just the beginning. But we should have an idea of where we're going with our marketing, and at the end of that 12 months, evaluate it. Is it working? If it's not working, get rid of it or tweak it, but you have to measure those results. You've got to have a way of understanding just how much of an impact your efforts are making.
That's kind of interesting, measure results. So that means that finding out from your customers or clients, whatever, how they heard about you.
Absolutely. We should always be tracking just where those customers or clients have heard of us. Yes.
Would that include, let me just ask you this. Would thank you be a part of marketing? Say somebody makes a referral to me, whether they use my business services or not, or my product, whatever, and I see to it that I take a moment to thank that individual. Is that a part of marketing?
I think that's a critical part of marketing. If we want people to help us build our business, and that's from word of mouth, referral marketing, that's one of the best ways to build anyone's business, and it's the least expensive. How much is it going to cost to write out a thank you note and send it off to them? I'm not saying an email, mind you, but an actual thank you note that costs 44 cents to go in the mail and actually arrives on someone's desk, and it stays there probably for more than a day or two, I can imagine.
That's interesting, because thank you is a part of marketing.
Two biggest words, I think, in marketing is thank you.
Wow, that's something. You know? All right, so what else?
Well, something I had a question for you.
Oh.
How did you learn your multiplication tables, Jim?
Repetition.
Repetition. So if I said to you 9 times 9, that's how much?
Oh, I'm just kidding. It's 81. Did I get you or what?
So maybe you weren't paying attention that day in third grade.
Hey, I'm over 65, so I mean, you know, when over 65, this is a challenging question.
Sure, and the reason you were able to come up with that answer so quickly is because you, both of us, had to memorize those things over and over and over again. That's how we were able to put it in a certain part of our memory banks that it's going to be there when we need to recall it.
Don't go any higher, because my fingers almost overheated when you were.
Well, no, they have calculators now. But the fact is that repetition is the key. And that's the same thing when we're trying to communicate. Well, it's just like with a lot of my clients, with your clients. You might tell them something the first time, it goes right over their head. They don't even hear it. Maybe they don't want to hear it. You tell them again, and then another occasion again, and it keeps going. And finally, you start to develop this, they start to develop an awareness of this message you're sending, and before you know it, it becomes part of their own internal dialogue, and hopefully, down the road, it becomes their idea. And now, of course, they use it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because in our society, we are so put upon by stimuli. When you go to stores, I won't name any, but the music they're playing, and just the noise level, and the amount of sensory input, many people already have shut down before you've even started your presentation.
Absolutely right. You go to a professional sporting event, it is one marketing train after the other. As soon as you get into the parking lot, walking up to the stadium, into the stadium, what you see, what you hear on a regular basis throughout the event, it's with the music and everything else, you know that they have a plan in terms of influencing you to buy certain items while you're there.
Yeah, so inattention is almost a part of self-survival, that I shut it all off before I even go in.
That's right.
So that's kind of interesting then. So with all that noise and all of that stuff, you're saying that I need to continually repeat my message in different ways. So I think what you're getting at is that you have to repeat your message in different ways. What are some different ways that I could get my message out to people?
Well, if you're a small business owner or want to get your message out to the potential clients that you have, you could certainly use the advertising medium of the radio, or newspaper, or emails, or your website. When they come to your website and they see that pop-up that comes on there, you could use it from just a sign on your car. And I know that's one thing you use as a sign on your car. That's a magnetic sign that attaches to the doors. The idea of having a sign on your building. I have to tell you, I see a lot of great examples of marketing out there, and I see a lot of bad examples of marketing out there, or people who are not doing certain things that would allow them to be a better marketer. There's one client in particular, well, no longer a client, never really became a client, but one thing I advised them on is they needed to get some signage on their building. They were in a mall. Everyone else in the mall had signage up there. They had space for it, but they did not want to put money aside to pay for the signage to be put on their building. So oftentimes people can't find their facility. And how easy is it to see an address nowadays in some of these malls? You can't. So the fact is, no sign, you're losing all that drive-by traffic or walk-by traffic that could be coming into your facility. And that's something this company, to this day, has not taken advantage of.
You know, it's kind of interesting that if you drive down the road and there are a lot of birds sitting on the wires,
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice that basically it's the same kind of bird that's sitting together.
Good example.
So let's say that somebody says, I don't have a big marketing budget. Depending on, you know, how much you want to stay in business, you could create a piece and figure out where your customers are coming from.
Yes.
And then go door to door or mailbox to mailbox. For example, in my community, you don't even have to go door to door. The mailboxes are all right by the street. You can just go by and insert something in a mailbox.
Sure.
I don't know if that's legal, but I mean, you can
Well,
do that.
to hitchhike on what you just said, one of the things a small business person can do, let's say they're a smart business person and they're taking note or keeping track of all the referrals they're getting. They're finding out where they're coming from. Well, to simply write out a thank you note, to actually have a strategy now, I get a big box of these thank you notes, get a big roll of stamps, and to write out the thank you note in advance. You could use the same ink pen and just thank you very much. I appreciate the referral you sent. Then when you actually get one from that a particular person, you could write in the name of the person at the top of the thank you note. You've already signed it at the bottom. Put it in the envelope, address the envelope, off she goes. But thinking about that positive reinforcement to the person that has sent you, has thought so highly of you and your service, your products, that they send you a client to send this person back a thank you note, handwritten. That's marketing. But it's a very effective marketing, because remember, word of mouth is the best way to build your business. And it costs 6 times less to get new business from a client that you already have, as opposed to advertising to the masses that are out there who may not know about you, may not even care about you. So it's just good common sense.
It's interesting because today a person came in, bought a copy of my book, and bought 2 extra copies for 2 other people who are not my clients, but she felt they really need to read my book. Wunderbar. Now, what happens if you have a great marketing approach and you're not too swift as far as sales?
Well, it has been said that sales is probably one of the best ways to maximize your marketing efforts. Now, you have to have people who are trained, skilled in being able to understand the whole process of the sale, the 4 steps that your client or your prospect goes through before they actually say yes and purchase. So that's one of the best ways to invest your budget, is in sales training. Sales training for the people that are going to be answering the telephone, the people that are going to be face-to-face with your clients or prospects. So yes, when it comes to sales training, that's a must.
Do you think any of us ever knows all there is to know about selling?
No. I'm still learning. I know you're still learning. If we're smart, we're still learning. Times are changing. Customers, clients, prospects are becoming more sophisticated. You know, 50 years ago, people would go along with a fuller brush man coming to their door, knocking on their door, giving them a free sample, etc. The different ways people were sold things before. The consumer today is much smarter. They're much more intelligent. And they go online. They read the reviews. They understand what their neighbors are saying to them. So they're more sophisticated. We need to become more sophisticated in the way we communicate the benefits of our products or services. So yes, we need to be continually learning how to be a better salesperson.
Okay, so today I had to apologize to a customer who wanted to renew their service agreement with us, but had a terrible time getting a hold of us. And so I called and apologized profusely, indicating that here's another phone number you can use to get a hold of me personally.
Sure.
Anytime you want. And I took care of the situation, so that instead of trying to explain away
Mm-hmm.
thing. I thanked her. Now this is the cool part. I thanked her for her persistence.
Excellent.
I said, yo,
Nice.
wow, you had to work
Mm-hmm.
at this purchase. I apologize.
Nice.
Shouldn't be.
Well, that's critical. Again, you're taking advantage of the fact that that's a client that has already trusted you and is invested in your services, and by keeping that client, you're saving yourself a lot of money spent. You know, that reminds me of something we purchased about a year ago. I don't know if you've purchased one, but it's this electric, or rather, it's a battery-powered edger. It's called the Works GT. Now, this is not a commercial for them. However, what I found was happening with this device I purchased, the battery just wasn't holding a charge. And it was supposed to be a very great battery, and the whole thing was guaranteed for 2 years, mind you. So in any event, just recently I went to, it had been charged, the battery was charged, I went out to use it, and it wouldn't work at all. Dead battery. Now, what's wrong here? So I called their number, their 800
Yeah,
number.
go have a jump on your edger.
Yeah, called the number, and it was all automated, but I'll tell you, they took me right through the process. They said they were having a problem with their batteries, and that if I would answer a few questions, they would be able to supply me with a brand new one. So I went through the process, took a few minutes, and sure enough, they said, you qualify for a new battery, we're going to send you one, and they had my telephone number from the number I was calling in on, and they were able to track that information. They knew who I was. They repeated that back to me, this automated receptionist, and sure enough, within 6 or 8 minutes, they were in the process of sending out a new battery for this electronic, or this battery-powered edger. Now, here's my point. They spent a lot of money on marketing to get me as a customer to begin with. They're smart enough to recognize that a battery is not going to cost them a whole lot of money to replace. If they're going to keep me as a customer, spreading the good word of how good this device is, and buying replacement spools that you need to, well, actually, you don't even buy them. They give them to you for free, but you're paying shipping. The shipping's a little expensive, like $6, but not bad. But you get that for life. So, and the other things you'll eventually need is your device does wear out when it's out of warranty. So again, they've recognized the value of that investment to get me as a customer, and now they were going the extra mile to make sure they keep me, even though they made a mistake, and they're correcting it.
So, in conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
2 powerful words, in addition to thank you, are I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And then 3 words would be I'm really sorry. That's what I'm hearing from you, that instead of rationalizing or figuring out a way to blame the customer, being able to say, I'm sorry,
Yes.
shouldn't have happened.
Yes.
I'm gonna make this right. There you go, folks. Another great meeting with Tom Borg.